I don't think any Michigan fans expected to go 2-4 before last season. Of course, they only got to play 6 games, but still, I don't think if you look at the 6 games that they played, I don't think any Michigan fan would have told you, yeah, we're going to go 2-4 in these 6 games. It was probably about the worst case scenario for Michigan last season. What about 2021? Let's take a look at what the worst case scenario for Michigan would be this year, and we'll look at 4 points here, and then we'll look at the schedule and show you what I think the worst case scenario is on that schedule. So these things are things that would happen if they're going to reach their worst case scenario. This is, I think, as bad as it gets for Michigan. First of all, I think it's obvious the quarterback struggle. When you've got 3 guys that you think have a legitimate chance to lead this offense, to be good, a good quality quarterback, when you got 3 guys that you think out of 3 of those guys, one of them is going to step up, one of them is going to be good. What if they all struggle? What if they swing and miss at quarterback? It seems like they have now for several years. They just have not gotten that guy to be a really good quarterback for them. I mean, they've had decent quarterback play at times, but they have just not had great quarterback play. And if they continue to struggle there at that spot, it's going to be a long season. And you can do everything else. You can run the football, you can play good defense, but in today's college football, especially with the schedule that Michigan plays this year, they're going to struggle if the quarterback struggles. So that is definitely, I think, the most important thing for Michigan, and the most important thing, I think, for most teams. Also, no playmakers emerge. You look at who they've lost in the transfer portal. You look at what they have coming back this year, and there are some serious questions. You know, who is going to step up at playmaker? There are guys on the team that I think are capable, but are they ready to take that next step? Are they ready to step into that role? They're going to need guys that can make big plays, that can stretch the defense. You look at a guy like Blake Corum, again, at running back, a guy that maybe can make some big runs for them. That's going to be a big key for Michigan. They need some playmakers to step up and get this offense a little bit more explosive, get them to take that next level. But let's say it doesn't happen. Let's say that nobody really emerges, and it's just a bunch of guys who are pretty good, but no one really puts a lot of pressure on the defense. And if that happens, this offense, I think, will struggle, and especially if the quarterbacks struggle. You know, if the quarterbacks do struggle, it would help out if some guys would step up around them. So I think that all kind of goes together. How about the defense? If they can't stop the pass again, it's going to be a long season. This was a big area of concern for them last year. I look at the corners coming back this year. I think it's a question mark. I don't really see anything to get me real excited if I'm a Michigan fan. I think they have potential to be pretty good against the pass. And, of course, they've made the changes, you know, going with the new defensive coordinator and everything. But what if they can't stop the pass again? What if they struggle? Because there are teams that are going to light them up in the passing game if they don't get better. So that is a big area of concern for me, the biggest area of concern on defense. And if they can't stop the pass again, like I said, they're going to get to that worst case scenario. And then also, how about just getting off to a slow start? When you look at the schedule for Michigan and you look at the mentality of this team, the psyche of this team coming into the season, it was such a bad year last year. You know, the confidence is not going to be super high. I know they made some changes in the coaching staff. It's been kind of a new energy this offseason, a lot of excitement. But to really buy into that, you got to see some wins. Now, they get Western Michigan and Northern Illinois early on, and we're about to look at the schedule. But, yeah, and those are games that they should win. But then you've got Washington. You've got Rutgers, who played them down to the wire last year. You've got Wisconsin on the road. You got Nebraska on the road. Nebraska has a chance to be pretty good this year. You lose 3 of those games. Let's say they're sitting there at maybe 6-6 going into their bye week, or 3-3, I should say, through the first 6 games. And then you got to go through the rest of the schedule where we're talking about Northwestern, Michigan State, Indiana, Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State. All games are going to be really tough. If they get off to a slow start, you have to wonder about what that's going to do to them mentally. And if they're 3-3 to start the season, I think it's going to be very hard to turn this thing around. And Jim Harbaugh may lose this locker room, and he may lose this team. He may lose a job if they get off to a slow start, because I think that's going to kick off really the worst case scenario for Michigan this season. So going back to the schedule, and here it is what we were just talking about. Western Michigan, Northern Illinois, yeah, they're on the schedule, but Washington, Rutgers, Wisconsin, Nebraska, those are games that Michigan can win. they can win all 4 of those games. It wouldn't shock anyone if they were able to win 4 of them, or at least maybe let's say they lose 1 game, but they could also lose 3 of those games. I mean, they could even possibly lose 4 of those games. I don't think it's going to happen, but that would give them a 2-4 start. Again, that was their record last year, so you never know. But again, we're talking about worst case scenario, all the things that we just talked about. If all of those things happen and it's just going bad for Michigan, let's see what I think the schedule, the record would be based off this schedule. And I think we can give them Western Michigan and Northern Illinois. They're going to win those games, even if this team is awful, even if they, again, are playing at their worst case scenario, they will win those 2 games more than likely. Now, that's not a guarantee, but you'd have to think Michigan, talent-wise, is going to be good enough to win those games. So then you look through the rest of the schedule, and how about losses? You know, if they're not a great team, if they're, again, playing up to that worst-case scenario, they're not going to beat Washington, Wisconsin, Indiana, Penn State, or Ohio State. That's 5 losses right there. Already 5 losses, and then you've got 5 games remaining. How are they going to play in those final 5 games? That's really the big question. And so when we talk about Michigan in the worst case scenario and the possibility of missing out on a bowl game, it is a very real possibility. Rutgers is a team that if Michigan's playing poorly and Rutgers is playing their A-plus game, Rutgers can beat Michigan. Same thing with Nebraska. Same thing with Northwestern, Michigan State, and Maryland. These are all teams that could possibly beat Michigan if they're not playing well. Will they all beat Michigan? I don't think so. I don't think that, even if, again, you go back to last year, as bad as it was for Michigan, they were still able to win a couple of games. And so when I look at these other 5 opponents here, I think Michigan has enough talent. They're going to be good enough to where they will be able to win at least a couple of these games. Let's say they go 2-3 in these 5 games. Again, we're talking about worst case scenario here. That's going to put their record at 4-8, and I think that's probably the worst case scenario for Michigan this season. I think that's as bad as it gets, missing out on a bowl game. And if they go 4-8, I would say that Jim Harbaugh is probably going to be fired. You go 2-6 and then 4-8 at a place like Michigan. I don't really see him having a job after that. So I think 4-8 would be the worst case scenario for Michigan. You know, realistically, I think this team, it's hard to see them not at least getting to a bowl game and getting to 6-6. But like I said, if everything goes against them, and we talk about all of those things that would possibly happen to cause them to play at their worst and to reach that worst case scenario, if all of that did happen, I think for Michigan, you'd be looking at a 4-8 record in 2021.